What I've told people all week, the Republicans on the House Oversight Committee have been very interested in this Epstein ordeal for weeks now. And I told Mike Johnson that our members wanted to pursue that. So it's not like there was any cover up from the Republicans on the House Oversight Committee, because our guys really want to know.
We want to know, but we're going home anyway. Hi again, everybody. It's now 5 o'clock in the East. Quote, our guys really want to know. That is Republican Congressman James Comer of Kentucky, signaling that the fervor for more information, the need to know, if you will, on the Epstein files is definitely not going away, in his view, anytime soon. But this week saw a Republican Party flee, a party pulled apart. One side wanting, what Comer said, full transparency. The other one desperate to give Donald Trump another lifeline, get out of jail free card, and avoid this story, and acting on what the MAGA base wants at all costs. Politico has new in-depth reporting on what they describe as a, quote, House GOP conference in full rebellion over the spiraling Jeffrey Epstein situation. The reporting lays out what happened that essentially forced Speaker Mike Johnson's hand. Quote, Rules Committee Chair Virginia Foxx of North Carolina and panel member Aaron Houchin of Indiana informed House leaders that Republicans on the panel would not advance any rule for the week, the prerequisite for the chamber to fully function, without a better solution to the Epstein problem. That's according to two people with direct knowledge of the conversation. The lawmakers knew that bucking their own leadership was an extreme response, but panel Republicans were incensed that a week earlier they were all but forced to vote against a Democratic effort calling for the release of Epstein-related information. Many, including Houchin, were under intense pressure from constituents to support the unsealing, and they wanted leaders to provide more political cover. Speaker Johnson, we now know, then chose not to fight with the Rules Committee and started the House's August recess, what Senator Chuck Schumer dubbed the Epstein recess, days early to avoid going on the record. Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna, speaking at a summit of Democratic mayors earlier today, called out the hypocrisy he's witnessing from the GOP and took aim specifically at the vice president. He referenced what J.D. Vance had posted as a Senate candidate in December of 2021. If you are a journalist and you're not asking questions about this case, you should be ashamed of yourself. What purpose do you even serve? I'm sure there's a middle-class teenager somewhere who could use some harassing right now, but maybe try to do your job once in a while. Khanna then shot back, quote, maybe you should be doing your job now. You were passionate about this issue when you were asking people in this state for their votes. What happened, end quote. Democrats leaning in to the Epstein file chaos as Republicans are floundering, all while Donald Trump's support with his own voters continues to plunge in the polls. New York Times reporting this, quote, while 40% of Republicans approve of Trump's handling of the release of the files on Epstein, more than a third of them, 36%, disapprove. That's according to a poll from Quinnipiac University. That is perhaps the most intra-party discontent Donald Trump has experienced as president. That is where we start the hour with Congresswoman Madeleine Dean of Pennsylvania. Also joining us, host of MSNBC's Politics Nation and president of the National Action Network, the Reverend Al Sharpton, and Puck News chief political columnist, MSNBC National Affairs analyst John Heilman is here for the hour. Congresswoman, one of the hallmarks of Trumpism is the complete control he has over elected Republicans. It's why things that used to be easy in your chamber are now next to impossible, because if Donald Trump doesn't want them done, the Republicans don't do it, which makes the polling that shows 36% of Republicans unhappy with his handling of Epstein stunning in this particular political moment. Does it seem to be loosening the grip he has over Republican House members? Congresswoman, oh, there you are.
Oops. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Now we can. Now we can.
Proceed. You reap what you sow. The president and his courtiers have stoked the conspiracy theories around Epstein and the Epstein files, promising to deliver the files that were sitting on the new Attorney General's desk. So you reap what you sow. Then suddenly nothing to see here. I don't care about this politically whatsoever. What I do care about are the victims and the truth. Why wouldn't we want to get at the truth and do justice for the victims? To your first point around the Republicans, I spent the better part of this week until session was canceled in appropriations. They are in lockstep. The Republicans on the Appropriations Committee are in lockstep with this president. I could not get them to do anything on the suffering, the starvation, the catastrophe that is Gaza. They are absolute lemmings who have just followed this president right off a cliff. I don't see it. They've been drained of their congressional authority, and they've been drained of their humanity by this president. They should just call for the releasing of the files, and then let's focus on what really matters.
John Heilemann, I mean, that is the two-sided coin of what it means to be a Republican in the side of Trump. You do things that completely violate all of your past principles. It is not conservative to be for the blanket tariff regime that he announced on whatever it was called. Was it called Independence Day? Well, I don't remember what he called it. It is not conservative to be against supporting Ukraine militarily and robustly and sharing intel. They've capitulated. But the other end of the coin in Republican telling was that they'd I don't know, his political superpowers would attach to them. He's at 37% and plunging like a stone. What do you see or what are you watching for in this moment?
Well, I believe it was Liberation Day, Nicole. Liberation Day.
Liberation Day. Thank you.
Not Independence Day.
Yes,
I mean,
thank you.
Even Trump didn't even try to move July 4th to a different day.
Yet.
And I take the not yet, right? I know. Don't speak too soon. I take Congresswoman Dean's point. However, we did see three very MAGA Republicans on that oversight subcommittee decide to vote to subpoena the Justice Department to release the Epstein files on Wednesday, I believe it was. That is a small. You could say that's a small thing, but you wouldn't have necessarily expected Nancy Mace and company to openly defy Donald Trump in that way and vote to issue that subpoena when Trump is clearly resisting disclosure in the way he is. So I do agree that Mike Johnson certainly and at the leadership level of the party there was this early thing where they were afraid that their voters would be mad about this, were mad about the lack of disclosure and the nothing to see here approach of the Trump administration. But then Mike Johnson very quickly hightailed it back under Donald Trump's wing. But it seems like the people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nancy Mace, and some of these other hardcore MAGA Republicans, at least on this issue, and maybe only on this issue, are willing to defy, stand up to President Trump to stick to their guns on an issue that I think a lot of their voters, especially these MAGA Congress people who came in the last couple of Congresses, a lot of them ran on QAnon related themes. A lot of them ran on Jeffrey Epstein. And some of them, I think, understand that their politics here have suddenly diverted from Donald Trump's. They used to think they were in perfect alignment because Trump was all for the Epstein conspiracy theories when it helped him get reelected. Now their politics are diverging. And as they diverge, and as you say, as his approval rating falls and we head towards the midterms, that is what I'm watching. That is where that is going to head when we get on the other side of this recess and we come back. And I would expect, I won't predict, but I would expect the pressure for disclosure is not going to have diminished significantly over the month of August. If anything, it may actually escalate.
Yeah, I mean, Reb, the whole formula of leaving Washington to avoid something is predicated on a crisis that's associated with Washington. The Epstein crisis is associated with wherever you were most radicalized to be in line ideologically and passionately with QAnon and where it intersects with MAGA. So I actually think the idea of going home is politically catastrophic. That's where your voters who are most passionate about these things are going to want to hear from you and hear answers. And I wonder what you make of not just the betrayal of the MAGA base over the release of the Epstein files, but the political malpractice that everyone from Donald Trump to Speaker Johnson are engaged in.
I can only believe that it shows how rattled the president is for whatever reasons, and how Johnson and them are really not thinking this through. They're reacting to a rattled president that's putting a lot of pressure on them. Because why would you want to take someone out of the pot and put them into the fire? And that's what you're doing, sending them home, because at home is where the people are going to be really disruptive if you have town hall meetings, not only about the big, beautiful bill, but about this. The people were told that elitist Democrats were doing all kinds of things to children. Now, as people were told over and over again, people built careers, they built podcasts, they built an industry around this. People got elected around this. And don't listen to them telling you there's nothing there. They're hiding and protecting the elite. There's something there. There's something there. Then you get in power and you say there's nothing there. So, I mean, they have become the victims of their own plot. And I think that I'm not even going to speculate on how many times Trump is mentioned in what capacity. I'm talking about the bare facts that they promised to deliver something that they're now saying there's nothing to deliver. So the question anybody can raise, some of the oath keepers are raising, were you lying then or are you lying now? And they put themselves in that position.